Minister, thank you very much. What's the business department doing across government in sticking up for small businesses across the country at the moment?
Well, I think there are a variety of things we can do. One is to unblock credit, financial flows, working with the banks, the guarantee scheme and others. I think partly helping, the government's short of money, but there are things we can do, and a focus can, particularly helping with things like apprenticeships, which are really taking off. Business needs it, particularly in the manufacturing side. Young people are getting much more highly motivated. We're helping to fund that. But what I really wanted to talk about today was removing some of the burden of regulation, which business has, particularly small business, because their compliance costs are much higher than the multinational companies. And we're doing various things there. We've got this moratorium on new regulation the next 3 years for small companies under 10 employees and startups. What I announced this morning was a new website, a red tape challenge, as we call it, to look systematically at all the 21,000 plus regulations out there, a few hundred at a time. We're starting with retail today, asking business to come back and challenge us and saying, do we really need this regulation? Can it be made more flexible? And it's, the initiative is very much with the business community to take this up. And then if they can raise points, the onus is on me and other ministers to justify that continued regulation. So it's stopping the new flow, it's dealing with the old stock of regulation. There's very specific things we've done, getting away some of the new regulations on requesting the right to train, flexible working. Of course, training and flexible working are good, but not the bureaucratic way they're being done.
Many would welcome the cutting of regulation, but you mentioned at the beginning credit. I mean, credit, every business you speak to are screaming out for credit. How can that button really be pushed to really move that on? The regulation thing is going to take time. You yourself said it's 21,000.
No, credit is crucial. We know there is a serious problem because the banks, in the aftermath of the credit crunch, under their new regulation, are required to hold more capital, and they're becoming much more conservative in their lending policy, and frankly it's doing a lot of damage. In terms of what government can do, we negotiated an agreement with the banks which has them committing themselves to 15% more in real terms lending to small SMEs. We've extended our loan guarantee scheme, and quite a lot of companies are taking advantage of that. The banks are coming up with what they call a business, the business fund, which is providing equity for mid-cap companies, between 2 to 10 million, that sort of magnitude, filling the gap that the 3 I's once filled. And there are, other activities coming down the track for community business finance, for micro companies. There's a limit. The government can't provide the credit of the economy. What we can do is to work on specific bottlenecks, preferably cooperating with the banks, but in some areas we have to get quite tough with them, making sure that credit does flow.
And how can we improve our sort of export potential for business? How can you, what are you doing to help those that want to export and
well,
start generating some wealth?
There is export growth, particularly in manufacturing. There's some real success stories, and things like the car industry are, really booming and taking advantage of export opportunities. They've got a competitive exchange rate. But for SMEs, there is a need to refocus the efforts of UK Trade and Investment, UKTI, onto SMEs. That's what they're doing. And one of the things that I introduced in the Trade White Paper a few weeks ago was a new set of products by the ECGD on providing short-term trade finance, which is, again, particularly important for companies who can't get regular credit.
Local enterprise partnerships, some haven't been set up yet. It's still quite shaky. A lot of people on the ground running businesses are very sort of wary of how are these going to deliver and when are they going to deliver.
Well, this is very early days, and there isn't government money sloshing around. I mean, this is very different from the philosophy of the RDAs, which are massive government bureaucracies, and of course had lots of money to spend. It's a different philosophy entirely. What we're trying to create are much more geographically sensible groups, based particularly around city regions. They're business-led, and some of them are really dynamic for that reason. They're coming forward with proposals, for example, for the Regional Growth Fund, which the first projects will be announced on Monday. Some of those will be LEP-led. But, they've only been there a few months. Some of them have only just been established. So it'll take time for them to produce real results.
Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you.